Welcome back to another Tip for Tuesday with Brett and Brian here from Simple Wholesaling. And today I want to focus on a little tip. One of the most, or I get asked this question probably at least once a week, and it kind of blows my mind a little bit because people don't realize this. But it's a natural question. It's something kind of the natural thought process of wholesaling, what people go through. But a lot of times I get asked this question of, "Hey, can you wholesale a house that's occupied?" That's being rented. Yeah, definitely. We wholesale houses all the time that are occupied, that are rented, that are under management by a property manager or just under managed by the owner itself or the landlord or whoever that may be. But yeah, there are a lot of people out there that are looking for properties that are already occupied, that already have tenants paying rent and stuff. So it's definitely an opportunity to wholesale, just like you would a vacant house, is be able to wholesale occupied properties. It does get a little tricky sometimes when you're trying to arrange if somebody needs a walkthrough or anything like that. But definitely can be done, and definitely is done every day within our business, definitely within our city too of Indianapolis and things. So, Brett, do you have any just like tips for wholesalers out there if they are trying to wholesale a property that is occupied? Just making sure they what are some things they need to make sure that they have in place to be able to turn over to their buyer, saying like, hey, this is what's going on with the house, or just any tips like that when it comes to wholesaling an occupied property?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously, wholesaling an occupied property has its challenges, and that's why people are afraid of it. But there's some little systems and tricks that you can do to wholesale an occupied property. Number one, I think communication is huge. Communication to the seller, exactly what you're trying to do, that you need to get people into the property, need to look at it, get pictures, a video. So number one, communicating that to the seller. And then number two, how can you communicate that also to the tenant or the property management company? One thing that tenants, they don't like people walking through their house. They live there, and they don't get any benefit from it. So giving them some sort of an incentive, I think, always works. Maybe it's a grocery gift card, a Starbucks card, or some type of gift card like that, just to say, hey, thank you so much for letting us walk through the property. Here's a gift card, so you can buy some groceries. That's one little tip. And just going out of your way to communicate to them as well, making sure you're saying, hey, we're going to be there at 1 o'clock, making sure, and we won't bother anything and don't take up too much of their time. So just being really efficient about it as well, I think, is a good tip. But it can be done as a wholesaler. That's your job, is to come up with creative solutions. So just because it's occupied, it doesn't have to stop. You can say, okay, how can I solve this problem? And many times you can. So I would just
Yeah.
focus.
I think it's just as important one of the things that you need to make sure you're doing with motivated sellers is that you're building rapport. It's the same thing with tenants too. The people that are in the property, if you have a chance to talk to them, but build a rapport, like you let them know like what you're trying to do is give them a new owner that's ready to take care of them, kind of know what's going on with the property. But also if you can talk to them, let them know or get to know their situation. Do they want to stay in the house? How long have they been there? How long do they want to stay in there? That way, that's just all good information that you can turn over to your buyer as well. I know one of the things that when you are wholesaling an occupied property, more than likely there's kind of an issue in it. There's a reason that owner is getting rid of it. Usually, a lot of times, it's because it's maybe an overwhelming property or an overwhelming tenant. And a lot of times the problem solving piece comes into that as you're trying to figure out what to do to be able to turn that over to the buyer, to be able to wholesale that to them. So some problem solving you might need to take on. But if any more information that you can give to your buyers, always going to help you out. Then also just reassuring the tenant that everything's going to be okay throughout the process as well, because they're going to be stressed out. You also have that times too where the owner might say like, hey, I do not want to let my tenant know that this property is being sold. That gets tricky. You have all kinds of situations, but definitely a way to navigate around all that stuff and be able to just wholesale. It's another opportunity to wholesale a property. So thanks a lot for joining us today with another Tip for Tuesday, and we'll see you next week. Later.